What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade J.J. Williams, and today I'm going to be discussing from 1998, Hulk Hogan in The Ultimate Weapon, also starring Cyndy Preston, Lynne Adams, Daniel Pilon, Michael D'Amico, and Vlasta Vrana, as well as a brief appearance by Hulk's buddy, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Ed Leslie. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me today for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. As I said at the top of the show, today I'm going to be discussing Hulk Hogan, The Ultimate Weapon, and this is the final Hulk Hogan film I'm going to be taking a look at this month as we wind down our movies starring wrestlers. We've only got 2 more movies after this, so let's get right down into this, okay, shall we? Our film begins with Ben Cutter, and he's having a daydream, but it's more of a nightmare. And he's trying to save a girl, but he ends up losing the girl, and she perishes. And the military personnel that he's with put a gun to his head. And just before they can pull the trigger, he wakes up. Cutter has a girlfriend named Lori, and she's always worrying about him because he's a mercenary who the army uses for really tough missions. You know, when something comes up and the regular army personnel just can't cut it, they call in Cutter. And she keeps worrying about him fighting other people's wars, that he'll come back to her in a body bag. You know, so she's always kind of getting upset at Cutter for having to run off on these special ops. Well, one day Cutter has to report to Special Forces Training Camp in West Virginia, and he's needed for another one of his special operations. Drummond, who's an old friend of his, is the man that hired him to bring him in for this army mission, introduces Cutter to his partner for the mission by the name of Cobra. And Cobra is the son of Cutter's old partner, the man who originated the handle of Cobra. At first, Cutter thinks this is a joke. So in order to prove himself, Cobra challenges Cutter to the obstacle course. And it's a very close run, both men trading the lead back and forth. But in the end, Cobra is able to just narrowly edge out Cutter for the victory. So Cutter relents and agrees to take him on as partner for this mission. He still doesn't like it. He still definitely has a little bit of issue trusting Cobra, but he was beaten fair and square, So he's going to allow him to do it. Cutter and Cobra find their target, and they prepare to move in. And as they storm the scene, they take out all of their adversaries. And the final man to get taken out almost takes Cutter out. But Cobra comes in and kills the man, saving Cutter's life. They recover the weapons, secure the area, and then mission leader Rourke comes in on a helicopter. And Cutter senses something is not right about Rourke. But Cobra tells him to ignore it. Man, we did our mission. Let's go back, get paid, get out of here. But that's just not Cutter's MO. Cutter goes back and he starts calling Rourke out. But Rourke just orders Cutter to leave. Thanks him for recovering $20 million worth of weapons. Your services are no longer needed. Get out of here. Cutter grabs one of the guns, and him and Cobra end up stealing the helicopter that Rourke came in on. And once they're in the air, Cutter begins to shoot up the weapons in the facility, destroying the $20 million worth of weapons that they had just recovered. Cutter and Cobra go and collect their pay. Cutter returns home. Rourke goes to see his boss, Dylan McBride. And we discover that Cutter's intuitions were right. McBride wanted the weapons so that he could sell them on the black market to the highest bidders. McBride is now upset that the weapons have been destroyed. He tells Rourke that the debt still must be paid, whether it's in Cutter's blood or yours, Rourke's blood. Cutter returns home and he proposes to Lori. He's ready to leave his mercenary life behind him. As far as Cutter is concerned, that was his last mission. So Lori accepts the proposal, and then she suggests that he tries to reconnect to his daughter. So the next day, Cutter goes to his daughter's house to see her, but she isn't there. McBride orders Rourke to bring in Drummond. Since he was responsible for hiring Cutter, so Rourke brings Drummond in, and McBride demands the names and addresses of the men responsible for costing him the $20 million worth of weapons. And at first, Drummond refuses. But when his life is threatened, he gives up the names. Rourke then shoots Drummond, but the shot doesn't kill him. It's going to end up killing him, but it doesn't instantaneously kill him, if that makes sense. It's an injury where he's going to suffer a bit before he finally dies. They tell him he's got probably about 5 or 6 hours bleeding out before he will finally perish. Cutter continues his search and finally tracks down his daughter, Mary Kate. Mary Kate is a stripper down at the local strip club. Cutter tries to be authoritative and tell her that she's better than that, but she argues back that he has no rights to parent her after all these years of being absent. He attempts to make amends with her and apologize, but she wants no part of it. Mary Kate and her stripper friend Jill get invited to a wealthy person's house for lunch. Now, Jill's been telling Mary Kate about this extra money she makes on the side, where the club owner essentially pimps her out to be private entertainment for these wealthy gentlemen. No sex is involved, but just being company, private lunches, private dates, arm candy for a few hours. And she's tried to get Mary Kate to participate with her, but she's always kind of put her down. After this run-in with her father, She's like, let's do this. Let's get some extra cash. So they go to the house, and the house happens to belong to McBride. And while the girls are there, Cobra comes by Cutter's house uninvited, which irritates Cutter. However, Cutter's got some business to run, so he brings Cobra along with him. They end up returning to the strip club. They don't find Mary Kate. Instead, they end up getting into a fight with the club owner and the head bouncer. And the head bouncer of the club is Brutus Beefcake. Meanwhile, back at McBride's, he tries to force his way onto Mary Kate in an effort to stick it to Cutter because he knows that Mary Kate is Cutter's daughter. And the only other person that knew about that was Drummond. So it's information that McBride got from Drummond before he killed her. Mary Kate's able to get away, throws one of McBride's prized eggs into a fountain, and she steals this flash drive from him. Don't really know what's on it, but she steals this flash drive. Cutter finds a couple dead bodies at Mary Kate's apartment while he's trying to find her again, and then happens to stumble into her down at his mother's house, her grandmother's house. An assassin for McBride tries to take out Mary Kate, but Cobra is able to take out the driver, but the shooter gets away. Cutter takes Mary Kate to his house, and during breakfast, he tries to find out what she's into. Why are people shooting at you? What is going on with you? Cutter goes to find Drummond because, like I said, Drummond was the only person that knew about Mary Kate. But when he gets there, he finds out that Drummond has been seriously injured and is on the verge of death. Drummond does tell Cutter about McBride, though, just before he passes away from his injuries. So now Cutter's on a revenge mission. Storming McBride's house, Cutter is ambushed once he's inside, and McBride tells him that he wants to play a game. McBride begins to show Cutter some of the weapons that he owns, while Mary Kate and Laurie are bonding. Cobra comes in and he's trying to flirt with Mary Kate. He asks her what kind of boyfriend she has, is he a rock star? Is he an actor? And she says that she doesn't have one. So he takes the opportunity, moves in, and kisses her. Now, McBride begins to torture Cutter, cutting him, Chinese torture, like death of 1,000 cuts. Dylan leaves Cutter alone with the man who attempted to assassinate Mary Kate, but Cutter is able to get free and get away from his captors. Back at Cutter's place, Cobra hears a noise. So he sends Laurie and Mary Kate downstairs and he arms himself. He begins to shoot out of an upstairs window, attempting to snipe out whoever is there. Cobra then climbs out onto the roof while a man enters the house. The man grabs Laurie and shoots Cobra in the leg. Dylan is able to get there and tries to get Laurie to show him where she copied his files. Cutter arrives on the scene just in time, though. And as McBride is trying to leave Cutter's house with his men, Cutter takes out one of his henchmen. Cobra plays possum after getting shot in the leg, and as the man who shot him comes to investigate, Cobra shoots and kills him. Rourke pursues Mary Kate while Dylan holds on to Laurie. They tie Laurie up and set the room on fire in an effort to smoke out Cutter. If he sees that the place is on fire, he'll emerge from his hiding place to come and save his fiancée. Rourke finds Cutter and Mary Kate and tries to bring them to McBride, but Mary Kate knocks Rourke out. Cutter grabs Rourke and tries to negotiate a trade of Laurie for Rourke. But McBride, he goes ahead and he shoots Rourke. And Cutter runs off and flees. Cutter and McBride end up getting into a standoff, but McBride backs up onto what's called a bouncing Betty. And if McBride shifts his weight at all, it'll blow up. Cutter negotiates McBride to release Mary Kate, telling him that if he does, Cutter will disarm the device. Once Mary Kate is safe, Cutter tells him that he lied. And the two of them walk off with Laurie and Cobra. And the assassin drives into the barn where McBride is, thinking he's about to get Cutter, but he ends up moving McBride when he crashes into it, sets off the bomb, killing the two men and destroying the barn. Cutter says that he's going to have to rebuild as our film comes to a close and the four survivors walk away. This was a decent little action flick, I'm not going to lie. Was it cheesy? Yeah, absolutely. You don't expect anything, Oscar caliber from Hulk Hogan. But it was good. I definitely enjoyed myself watching this. A good old popcorn action flick. When it comes to my review of this film, I can give it 3 out of 5 stars. Again, was it going to be Oscar worthy? Was it going to be The Wrestler? Was it going to be Citizen Kane? No, never. Not in a million years. But for Hulk Hogan, I'd put this up there with Mr. Nanny. Suburban Commando is still my all-time favorite. So out of the 5 movies that I ranked this month with Hulk Hogan, I would go Suburban Commando, Mr. Nanny, then probably this, The Ultimate Weapon, then No Holds Barred, then The Secret Agent Club. And I only put The Secret Agent Club underneath No Holds Barred because they both were right up there on their cheese level, but I felt that the addition of Zeus as the heel in No Holds Barred was better than the villains in The Secret Agent Club. Just my thoughts there. But 3 out of 5 stars, nonetheless, here for The Ultimate Weapon. Make sure you get out there on social media, hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you do what that commercial just told you. Get out there, go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network. Purchase your official Jeff Meacham Network merchandise, the logo tees, Talk Wrestling, Meachamania. Get you your official merchandise of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, your Renegade JJ Williams shirt, Statboy Sports Bar, Dad's Not Always on Wrestling, and so much more. tomorrow, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, when I bring you yet another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. Make sure you tune in as I'll be discussing Chasing Molly, starring Shelley Pack, Jim Cashman, Kurt Angle, and Felicia Day. This was another very interesting romp, and it was interesting to see how all these people tied into the story, especially Kurt Angle, one you're not going to want to miss. Thank you for tuning in. Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. I will respond to them, and maybe I'll read your comments on April's edition of Renegade Recap. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you guys next time.